Okay, so here is a quick README first overview of the data collected last semester. I'm sharing with you all of the data collected in that particular semester, not just for your study, just in case you may need some additional variables that you did not specifically request for your study that were either collected for the general purposes or maybe even some were collected for another study. But as long as it's like one or two questions that you may need to use for your study, I suppose that's okay. Though, if you will need to use data from a different study, maybe let me know first and perhaps I'll run it by the authors of that other study because we don't want any overlaps here. So let me show you what kind of data you have here in the folder. So first you have the data collection plan. So here I have the list of constructs by week for each of the weeks. So you have the 2A and 2B, and so find yours here. Like for example, Tobias right here in 2A week by week. Or maybe for example, the study on the language barrier. So again, the second semester or second track, again, week by week. Then you see here the survey number. So it's not really the week because survey number 1 is the readiness test, which is done before the project starts. Then you have the second survey that is due in the middle of the first week. And then that's survey 3, that's the end of the first week. So maybe I should really add a column here. In fact, I'll do it right away. And so this would be, so that's the survey. So this way, survey 1 was done before the start of the project. Survey 2 was done by Thursday of week 1, and then survey 3 at the end of week 1, survey 4 at the end of week 2, and so on and so on and so on. Second, so once you find your name or study, you can see which survey and which week each of the items were included in. Then in the survey, in the folder here, you can also find the actual full surveys with all of the questions. So for example, survey number 5, which would be of week 3, due at the end of week 3, this was the actual survey. And so you see the full text in Word. And if it's the item that had, like for example, here you even have the item name in the data file. So obviously in the original survey that the students saw on the screen, they didn't see the item labels, or they didn't see that 1, 2, 3, 4 scale, so they only saw that the text but not the labeling. You can see here everything that you need, and so this way you can also see that 2 corresponded to 2 and 4 corresponded to 4 in this particular case. But in some cases it could be like, for example, 7 corresponded to 6 or more conflicts last week, and things like that. So you see all of the details here for each of the survey. Or for example, self-confidence and whatever the other items here. So that was a slider scale from 0 to 100. So some of these items like this one, that's general, you can use it anytime you want. But then others are actual survey questions that were collected for another study. So if it's not something that you specifically requested, let me know. Probably it's okay if you use it, or at least in a limited capacity, but let's make sure each time so we don't have multiple studies using the same data. Then you have also several files with the data. So namely, you have a team level codebook and team level data in Excel format and CSV. I suppose Excel is better, but some programs take only CSV, so I put them both here. And then the same thing with individual. And I'll open the codebook for the individual data just to show you what it looks like. So again, you have here all of the items that were measured in that specific semester, from demographics to all of the other things. For each of them, you have the topic. You have some additional details here. You have the actual variable name, the way it appears in the data file. Then you have the actual survey question, exactly the way it appeared in the survey. And then you have the scale, like from 1 to 5. Some of the items, like for example, the CQ measure was by Ann et al. From 2008. Others, it was a direct question. Others were some items developed by Xculture, and so on and so forth. And then you also have the items, the number of observations in each of the tracks. So some of those, like age, gender, measured in both the early track and the late track. So like 2,000 people answered the question about gender, and then 3,000 and a half people answered the question in the late track. But then when we get to the specialized studies, surveys specifically requested for a particular study, that's where we have either one or the other semester. So for example, all of these leadership, workflow, media use, so all of them were included in the early track. But then when we get to like language barrier, goal orientation, all of them were included in the late track. And you can see them here. So take a look, let me know if you have any questions. These last few items, something's wrong here. I'll need to take a look and correct it. Hopefully by the time you are reading this, the problem has been corrected. But otherwise, you have all of the data from the last semester here. So let me know if any questions arise, but otherwise it should be ready for your analysis.